Lovely morning to respected delegates, the chairpersons, the speakers, and the judges. We are live from Hall Here. To get the session started, I request the judges and the chairperson to switch on the camera, unmute themselves, starting with Dr. Vikram Jain, Dr. Dipanjan Pal, Dr. Prashant Srivastava, Dr. Mayuri Khamar, and Dr. Kumar Ravi, and Dr. Rajul Parekh. Over to the judges. We can now call upon the first speaker.
Priya, please.
Yeah, I'm present. Can I start sharing my screen?
Sure, ma'am. So just as a guidance, there would be 4 minutes for the presentation, followed by 2 minutes of discussion and questions. Over to you, ma'am.
Shall I start?
Yes.
Sure,
Okay.
ma'am. The screen is visible.
Yeah, is it visible, right? Okay, I'll start. Good morning, one and all. My topic is ocular biometry in primary angle closure disease. As we know, primary angle closure is one of the important cause of ocular morbidity. Gonioscopy examination is essential to identify this risk. Studies have showed eyes with occludable angles and angle closure glaucoma have shorter axial length, narrow anterior chamber, and thicker lens. A-scan ultrasonography can be easily used to measure this dimension, which can be done by optometrists also. In this study, we compare ocular biometric characteristics of primary angle closure suspect, angle closure, and PACG. It is a prospective study done in eyes, 75 eyes of 39 patients. We classified patients based on ISGO classification. We excluded patients with plateau iris configuration, past ocular intervention, secondary glaucoma, and patient on myotics. All patients underwent complete ophthalmic examination and ocular biometry. We recorded anterior chamber depth, lens thickness, and axial length. Based on this measurement, we calculated lens axial length factor and relative lens position. Statistical analysis was done. We found PACG and PAC patients were older compared to PACS group. There was no gender difference between the groups. Coming to the biometric parameter, we found anterior chamber depth narrower in PACG patient. Lens thickness were higher in PAC group. There was no difference in axial length among the three groups. LAF was higher in PAC group. This could be attributed due to thicker lens and similar axial length among all the three groups. RLP decreased significantly from PAC to PACG group. This means lens is positioned more anteriorly in PACG group. Other studies also supported these results of increased lens thickness in PACG group and decreased axial length in PACG group. A thick lens, anteriorly positioned lens, plays essential role in pathogenesis of angle closure by causing decrease in anterior chamber depth resulting in angle crowding. The relative size of lens is represented by LAF. In our study, we did not find any difference in LAF between PACG and PACS. And decrease in RLP could be predictive of appositional closure for narrow angles. We did not measure CCT. Measuring CCT would have added true value, finding true value of true anterior chamber depth. And we did cross-sectional study. So causal relationship between biometric changes and progression of PAC to PACG has not been studied. So to conclude, biometric parameters of PAC were in midway between PACS and PACG. Also in primary angle closure, in addition to increased lens thickness, shallow anterior chamber depth and more anteriorly placed lens may suggest risk of developing primary angle closure glaucoma. A-scan ultrasonography may be useful to identify the patient who are at risk of developing PACG in those patients. So further prospective study is required to confirm whether the difference of biometric parameter can predict the likelihood of developing PACG in PAC group. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
So now we are open for questions for 2 minutes.
Dr. Priya, is there anything in the study which will help you in surgical management?
Pardon, sir?
Any finding in your studies which is going to help you in dealing with these patients surgically? When we're talking about biometry, I assume that you would have done keeping in mind
Sir,
cataract surgery.
maybe in PSC patient, if the lens thickness is higher, maybe we can plan for early lensectomy. Maybe it could be beneficial among those patients. Sir.
Okay.
Dr. Priya, it was an excellent presentation. So I would just ask, like to know that how did you exclude Plato iris patients?
By gonioscopy, sir.
Only by gonioscopy? Is
Yes,
it
sir, by
possible
gonioscopy.
to exclude Plato iris patients only by gonioscopy?
Gonioscopy finding that, sir.
So I think we can carry on with the next presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I request the panelists to invite the next speaker.
The next presenter will be Dr. Saurabh. We will present on dry eye disorder with anti-glaucoma medications in monotherapy versus fixed dose combination therapy. Dr. Saurabh Swarnkar.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. My title is Dry Eye Disorder with the Anti-Glaucoma Medication in Monotherapy versus Fixed Dose Combination Therapy. The authors have no financial interest in this study. It is well-known fact that the topical anti-glaucoma medication causes the ocular surface diseases. Despite known ocular surface side effects of topical anti-glaucoma medication, these have been studied in less detail comprehensively. Very few Indian prospective studies has documented serial change in ocular surface in such patient comprehensively for a long period. The aim of the study to study the Tibet-Shermer's test for fluorescein stain, Rose Bengal staining, OSDI score, glaucoma patients on topical A, timolol maleate 0.05%, B, bimatoprost 0.03%, and C, the combination of both the drugs at baseline at 3, 6, and 12 months, and to compare these dry eye parameters. This was a prospective randomized observational study with the inclusion criteria: newly diagnosed cases of primary open-angle glaucoma above the 18 years old, exclusion criteria on topical lubricants or using the punctal plugs, undergone intraocular surgeries, contact lens use, any primary or secondary ocular surface disorder, intolerance or hypersensitivity to any drug used in the study, ocular trauma or Bell's palsy. The patients were randomized into 3 groups, each group having 30 patients. Group A was started on timolol maleate 0.5%, Group B on bimatoprost 0.03%, and Group C is on combination of bimatoprost and timolol. All the 3 drugs contain the benzyl alkylonium chloride as a preservative. Follow-up was done on 3, 6, and 12 months. We did comprehensive ocular examination along with tear film breakup time, Shermer test, corneal fluorescein staining, Rose Bengal staining, and OSDI scoring. Result and discussion. All the 3 groups are comparable in terms of age, sex, visual acuity, intraocular pressure, fundus examination finding, and visual field examination findings. We come to the dry eye parameters. OSDI score. In all 3 groups, OSDI score changed significantly from the baseline. There was a significant change in the score at the end of 6 months and 12 months. Similar results were also found with the Tibet and the Shermer test. Fluorescein stain and Rose Bengal stain, when compared to baseline, the grades change were statistically significant in all the 3 groups at 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. When we compare of dry eye parameter between Group A, that is timolol, and Group C, FCBT, the Tibet p-value 0.045, fluorescein stain p-value is 0.044, and Rose Bengal staining grade 0.006. These 3 values are statistically significant This indicate that the FCBT causes tear film instability and more pronounced ocular surface damage than timolol. And when we compare bimatoprost with the FCBT, OSDI score, T-BERT, Sharma test, fluorescein stain, and Rose Bengal stain at the 12-month are statistically significant. The difference are statistically significant. Thus, the FCBT causes significantly more ocular surface damage, tear film instability, and more dry eye symptom as compared to bimatoprost. To conclude, limitation of the study, the sample size was relatively small, consisting of 30 patients in each group. Second, all the drugs used in the study having benzalkonium chloride as a preservative, therefore either the preservative alone or the drug alone or both together could be responsible for various ocular surface changes observed. To conclude, we found that anti-glaucoma medication like timolol, bimatoprost, FCBT containing back caused damage to ocular surface and tear film instability. Among the drugs used, more pronounced ocular surface damage and tear film instability by FCBT and least by the bimatoprost. These are the references. Thank you.
Dr. Mayuri madam is there? Madam? Dr. Mayuri Khamar? Madam, are you there?
Yes, yes, I'm
Yes,
here.
she's there.
Yes, madam, I please ask some questions to Saurabh.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt, but your voice is very low. We cannot listen. Is it only me? Can others confirm?
No,
We are not able to hear you.
You can't hear me?
Now
Yes,
it's fine.
yes,
Now it's fine.
ma'am.
I'm shouting. Okay. Why do you think that bimatoprost is better than the combination? Obviously, the two drugs, timolol, you have already said is giving the dry eye problem. So the comparison should be between the bimatoprost as well as with the timolol also.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
There is a bias involved.
Ma'am, my topic was comparison monotherapy with the fixed dose combination. But I did comparison in my study as well with the bimatoprost and timolol. Again, I found the timolol causes more ocular surface changes than bimatoprost.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Subgroups of 30 patients were all on the drug from the same manufacturer, like timolol was one particular brand, or was it a mix?
No, sir, it's a different brand.
Okay, that also might have some implications.
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Can we go to the next speaker? I invite Dr. Madhvendra Singh for his presentation. Is he here? The next speaker.
Dr. Mahendra, are you there?
I'm afraid he is not there in the session.
Then can we have Dr. Suchita?
Dr. Sanchita Agarwal.
I'm sorry, even she is not there in the meeting.
Are they?
We have skipped Dr. Haimanti Chowdhury.
Yeah, I'm here.
Third presentation is by Dr. Haimanti Chowdhury. I think she can go ahead.
So can I start sharing the screen?
Now let me clear. Who is the next in the line?
Ma'am, Dr. Haimanti Chowdhury is the third name, ma'am.
Okay, continue.
Hirendra Kumar Chaudhary.
Yeah, Dr. Haimanti can go ahead.
Should I start?
Yes,
Am I audible?
yes.
Okay. Good morning. My paper is on prevalence of glaucoma in South Assam, a hospital-based study. The authors have no financial interest in this presentation. Glaucoma, as we all know, is a leading cause of irreversible blindness worldwide, and the varying prevalence in Indian population are 2.3 to 4.7%. The purpose of our study was to assess the prevalence of glaucoma in patients attending a tertiary care center in South Assam. So the study was conducted in Silchar of Kachar district in Assam, which has a population of 1,73,00,000. We also catered to the surrounding states of Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, and parts of Meghalaya. It is a population-based cross-sectional study in a hospital setup from December 2015 to March 2020. All patients above the age of 40 years were subjected to opportunistic screening for glaucoma, intraocular pressure, Van Herrick grading of anterior chamber angle, and disc evaluation was done for all cases. And those who were glaucoma suspects, they were evaluated further. Intraocular pressure was measured by rebound eye care tonometry, and if it is found then more than 21, then confirmed with applanation tonometry, disc evaluation by plus 90 diopter lens, gonioscopy by 4-mirror handheld gonioscope, perimetry by JAIS visual field analyzer, central corneal thickness and retinal nerve fiber layer analysis was done by JAIS Cirrus HD OCT. Disc photography was done by Canon digital retinal camera. The operational definition was, if any two or more of the following was found, he was labeled as glaucoma, intraocular pressure more than 21 in either eye, vertical cup disc ratio of more than 0.6 in either eye, or an asymmetry of 0.2, Van Herrick grading of 2 or less, and in perimetry glaucomatous field defect according to the Anderson's criteria. It was labeled as primary open angle glaucoma if it was open angle on gonioscopy, and primary angle closer glaucoma if on gonioscopy it shows presence of an occludable angle. Secondary glaucoma was defined if the patient had a history of topical steroid, history of trauma, surgery, chronic uveitis, or pseudo-exfoliation. Our results show out of 27,869 subjects evaluated, the overall prevalence was found to be N equal to 612, that is 2.04%. Out of that, primary open angle glaucoma was present in 1.76%, primary angle closer was found in 0.27%, and additional 0.35% had primary angle closer and primary angle closer suspect. So our prevalence was found to be less than that of the Vellore eye study and the Andhra Pradesh eye disease study, but it was almost in accordance with the Hooghly River study, which was conducted in West Bengal, and the R.R. Khandelwal study, which was published in 2019. So we conclude this study is the first of its kind from this part of the country. The strength of the study being large population base and it spanned 4 years duration, we have found that primary open angle glaucoma was most common in our study setup, and the prevalence of angle closer was lower than that of other studies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madhuri.
Have you looked at the refractive error in this patient?
Yes, ma'am. Refractive error was also there, but yes, ma'am.
Any correlation?
We have not tried to find that out, of course, about correlation of myopia and glaucoma. This correlation we have not done.
Hemanti, you have done visual field test by 30-2 in all patients.
But yes, that was the standard. But of course, if the field was very bad and if the vision was too less to do that, then we have gone to 10-2 if necessary.
But in the inclusion criteria for glaucoma, you have included only more than 0.6 disc or asymmetry or IOP 24. Their visual field was not there. For defining glaucoma, the criteria can define.
No, sir, it was there. Do you want me to again share that screen? Yeah, I will share that screen. Yeah.
Any two of the criteria would confirm.
I will just go back there. Yeah. So glaucomatous field effect, yes.
No, any of the two you have written, no?
Any two can define glaucoma.
It could be a misjudge, and the vertical cup disc ratio in 0.6 may not be a glaucomatous. So there is bias in this.
That is exactly my point. Ma'am is right. Even if the vertical cup disc is 0.6 or more, it cannot be glaucoma. It can be normal also, and IOP of 21 also. So
yes, yeah, I agree to this.
Dr. Hemanti, in Assam, you have a heterogeneous population. You have people with mongoloid genetics also, I think some
Yes.
tribal population also.
Yes,
correct me if
yes,
I'm
we
wrong,
have
how do you
tribal.
correlate? How do you
We have
correlate those things?
tribal
Do you have a bias,
population.
you know?
And there was
Yeah.
a study conducted from this part on correlation with the Manipuri tribes, and it was found that glaucoma is relatively high in the Manipuri subpopulation.
Okay.
Is that Manipuri subpopulation have an angle closure type or an open angle glaucoma type?
Usually angle closer type is more common in them.
Actually, when we think of Northeast, most of the time we think that primary angle closure type of glaucoma would be more prevalent in that part of the city, that part of the country. So I was little surprised to see from your study that open angle glaucoma was much higher compared to primary angle closure, which may be because of the definition that you have mentioned, the way you defined, try to define open angle glaucoma. Maybe those are open angle glaucoma suspects than the real disease itself. Do you think so?
This operational definition was also used by the Hooghly River study, sir, and also in the Andhra Pradesh eye disease study.
But that doesn't fit to the definition of glaucoma actually. You cannot tell a 0.6 curve ratio as open angle glaucoma. You can say it's an open angle glaucoma suspect, isn't it?
Okay, okay.
Now we have to go to the next speaker. Stop sharing your slide, please.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Dr. Mahendra, are you available? Is there?
Dr. Madhavendra is not available.
Next, Dr. Sanchita.
She's also not there. Is she there?
No, she's not.
She's not there. I think the next speaker is Dr. Rosemary George.
She was there from the very beginning, I think.
Correct. Correct.
Saw her.
So, Rose, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Please share your screen.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Screens are visible, right?
Please go ahead. You're audible and visible.
Good morning, respected judges and my dear colleagues. I like to thank the organizing committee for this wonderful opportunity. I'll be presenting a description of OCT parameters in children with high cup to disc ratio, which is a prospective observational study. As we all know, glaucoma is a leading cause of irreversible but preventable blindness in children. There are multiple imaging technologies such as OCT, which plays an increasing role in glaucoma diagnosis, monitoring of disease progress, and quantification of structural damage. Having said that, all OCT devices have an integrated normative database only for adults more than 18 years of age. So without an available normative database, interpreting an OCT in children has become cumbersome. So the main aim of my study was to interpret OCT parameters in children with optic disc changes for whom the normative database is not incorporated in the OCT mission. So this was a prospective observational study conducted from September 2019 to March 2020, and was conducted in children aged 6 to 17 years, 17 years, showing either vertical or horizontal cup to disc ratio of more than 0.4 or disc asymmetry. And it was conducted in a glaucoma clinic, Minto Ophthalmic Hospital, RIO, Bangalore. And we have included 78 eyes of 39 children of mean age 13.4 years. And there were 28 males and 11 females. Mean RNFL thickness of right eye of males was 20.79 and females was 91.45, and of left eye of males was 91 and females was 87. And as shown in the table, there was no statistical significance in the mean RNFL thickness of males and females. And we divided the patients into 4 subgroups based on age, like less than 10 years, 10 to 12 years, 13 to 15 years, and 16 to 18 years. And as shown in the graph and the table, the mean RNFL thickness of both eyes in different age groups did not show any statistical significance. And the quadrant-wise RNFL thickness followed a pattern in children, with inferior quadrant being the thickest, followed by superior, nasal, and temporal. And since it's, depending on this ISNT rule, we divided the children into 2 groups. Like ISNT rule followed group, among them there were 21 children, and ISNT rule altered group, which included 18 children, and different optative parameters like cup volume, rim area, disc area, vertical CD ratio, and average CD ratio were analyzed among these 2 groups. And as shown in the table, none of the none of the parameters showed any statistical significance among these 2 groups. So coming to the discussion, all this available literature shows a mean RNFL thickness of normal children as 98, 95.6 and all. In our study, which was conducted on children with abnormal cupping, mean RNFL thickness was 91.12 in right eye, and left eye it was 89, which shows a significant decrease in the mean RNFL in our children. And mean RNFL thickness of both eyes were not affected by age, which was in agreement with other published literature. And one of the reasons has been hypothesized that nerve fiber losses happens later in life, and this average RNFL thickness, which decreases by 2 microns for every decade, starts after the age of 50 years. So, and the quadratic thickness of RNFL distribution showed the double hub pattern as seen in adults, and it was consistent with ISNT rule. Major strength was a large age range and a comprehensive eye examination, which helped to make a protocol on following these children. Limitation was we didn't include axial length, refractive status, or central corneal thickness, and this was a hospital-based study. So concluding, the study established variation in mean RNFL thickness depending on age and gender in children with abnormal cupping, and helped in analyzing the different optative parameters and deciding on follow-up of these children with high cup to disc ratio. Thank you.
Any question, Dipanjan?
Yeah, nice presentation, Dr.
Thank you,
Rosemary George.
Thank you, sir.
So, as we have we have some studies in the previous literature regarding OCT in children. What exactly did you add to what is there in the literature?
Actually, the normative database, since it is not incorporated in the OCT mission, so whenever a child comes with a high CDR ratio, we were really confused whether when to follow up this child. Is it pathological or is it physiological? So we just analyzed all these children, and we thought like if the mean RNFL thickness, if it is less than 90, we thought we'll frequently follow up them. And also, if this ISNT rule is not followed in these children, it's better to follow them frequently rather than labeling as physiological cupping.
So you suggest that if the ISNT rule is not followed in these children, they are more likely to develop glaucoma in later part of their life?
Like we may have to follow them.
Usefulness of this data. How?
Because none of the optative parameters like cup volume, disc volume, nothing was significant, was coming as statistically significant.
Refractive error is
Sorry, ma'am.
into the account, no?
Yeah, refractive error, that was one of the limitation, ma'am.
It's a
Big limitation. It's a big limitation. If you in children while measuring OCT, if you have not included refractive error, it's a big limitation. Anyway, nice presentation. The next presenter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next presenter is Dr. Pradeep Balam. Is he there? Dr. Pradeep Balam?
Yes, sir, I am there, sir.
Please start your presentation. Share your screen.
What happened?
Sir, are you able to hear me?
Please continue.
Good morning, panelists and judges. Thank you, AOSC, for giving me this opportunity. I will be presenting on
Where is your
effect of-
screen?
Cannot see your.
We cannot see you. Yeah. Now we can see it. Yeah.
Okay. Sir, when I'm putting it full mode, you are not able to see, sir. And now are you able to see?
Visible. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible.
I'll be presenting on effect of topical glaucoma medications on lipid layer thickness in patients with newly diagnosed glaucoma. Introduction. Intraocular pressure is the only modified risk factor in patients with glaucoma. Treatment with topical anti-glaucoma medications is essential to prevent the progression of glaucoma. However, long-term use of glaucoma medications has led to ocular surface disease, which is characterized by disruption of integrity of ocular surface, inadequate quantity of tears, and an unstable tear film. LipidView interferometer is a new device that can measure tear film lipid layer thickness quantitatively using interferometry. It is a beneficial tool to evaluate the relationship between OSD and meibomian gland dysfunction. Materials and methods. Patients attending outpatient department of our hospital who were newly diagnosed with glaucoma and were treated with topical glaucoma medications are the sources of our study. 3 lipid layer thickness parameters, that is maximum, average, and the minimum measured by LipidView, were recorded before starting anti-glaucoma medications and after 6 months of treatment. Exclusion criteria were those patients who are on topical anti-inflammatory drugs, antibiotics, history of using artificial tear drops within 3 months, and current use of contact lenses, previous history of trauma, ocular surgery, or laser treatment. Slit lamp evidence of eye surface disorders. Results. 38 eyes of 26 patients were included in this study. Before starting the treatment, maximum, average, and the minimum LLT were 80, 64, and 55 respectively. At the end of 6 months, maximum, average, and the minimum were reduced to 77, 61, and 52 respectively. And the table shows there is a statistically significant difference in LLT parameters before treatment and at the end of 6 months. There is also a statistical difference between LLT parameters before and after the treatment in patients who are on double drug. All the LLT parameters were negatively correlated with topical glaucoma medications, total number of daily drops, and the duration of topical glaucoma medications. So this is the picture showing lipid layer thickness parameters before the start of treatment and after 6 months. So we can see that before the start of treatment, the lipid layer thickness is normal, and after 6 months, there is a considerable decrease in the lipid layer thickness. Discussion. Longer duration of topical glaucoma medications and increased number of medications were associated with lower lipid layer thickness. All the parameters before and after the treatment were significantly lower. Lee et al. Investigated the effects of topical medications on OSD and LLT, and he found that average LLT in glaucoma group was significantly lower, and it also negatively correlated to total duration of medication. Arita et al. Demonstrated that long-term use of topical glaucoma medications was associated with alterations in meibomian gland morphology and function and contributed to ocular surface disease. Ramley et al. Showed that the prevalence of OSD ranged from 37% to 91% in glaucoma groups, regardless of the preservative content in the eye drops. In the current study, longer the duration and greater the number of anti-glaucoma medications were associated with lower LLT parameters. There may be a tendency for the patients to have lower adherence to the prescribed treatment. Therefore, assessment and continued monitoring of changes of lipid layer thickness related to ocular surface disease may have a positive effect on treatment adherence in patients with glaucoma and ultimately prevent the worsening of glaucoma. Conclusion. Patients on long-term glaucoma medications need to be assessed for lipid layer thickness parameters to evaluate their ocular surface health. In glaucomatous eyes, a longer duration of treatment and increased number of topical glaucoma medications were associated with lower LLT. OSD is strongly related to treatment compliance of topical glaucoma medications. These are my references. Thank you. Hello.
Yeah, nice presentation.
Sir, thank you, sir.
Dr. Prodipal. Ravi? Ravi is there?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, what would be the advice that would come out from this study? Like, say, patient will have to use long term. So, is there anything that you concluded from your study, like something which helps the practitioners in prescribing medicine or giving the advice a patient to follow? Because we know that, yes, it is there. What extra we have got from the study?
Sir, assessing the lipid layer thickness over a period of time and seeing whether there is drastical decrease or whether there is considerable decrease is what, sir. And if patients who are having drastical decrease, like lot of significant decrease, so we can advise preservative-free eye drops in such patients. Those are preserved.
Okay.
Okay. Do the patients who had a low LLT with long-term glaucoma medication, did they also had some clinical symptoms of dry eye? Did they present with some symptoms of dry eye? Did they complain symptomatically that I'm having this problem?
Sir, initially we made sure that patients who are having dry eye, whether it is aqueous component or the lipid component, before treating, before starting of the treatment, we have excluded them, sir. Only the patients who are like having normal aqueous and tear lipid layer thickness for only, and who are diagnosed with glaucoma, only those people were included in this study, sir, actually. So after the use of the treatment, following 6 months, because we have followed up for 6 months for this study, sir. So 6 months, 7 months later on, the lipid layer was thickness, and few patients were having significant dry eye components.
Again, I would like to comment is all the drugs that patients are using are of a different company, different molecule.
Yes.
So it's anyway good study. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
The next speaker is Nivedita Sharma. Please share your screen.
Your screen is visible, ma'am.
Yeah. Carry on.
Dr. Nivedita, kindly unmute yourself and switch on the camera. I think, Dr. Nivedita, you're trying to talk, but we are not able to listen to you. Doctors, please confirm if you can listen to Dr. Nivedita.
No, she is not audible.
She's not audible.
Ask her to unmute again. Mute and unmute once again.
Ma'am, you can directly use the system sound. You can detach, if you have any speakers or any headphones, you can detach and start using the system sound.
I think you can call her once. The number is there.
Yeah, correct. You are on mute, ma'am.
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah. Now we can hear you.
On slideshow now.
Good morning, everybody.
Please continue. We can hear you.
Good morning. My topic of presentation is effect of oral omega-3 fatty acid on IOP in normotensis and primary open-angle glaucoma patients. Omega-3 acid exists as short, that is alpha-linolenic acid, and long-chain EP and DHA subtypes. Dietary consumption of omega-3 fatty acids have been proposed as a modifier factor for IOP regulation through many mechanisms. Loading effect are the consumption of omega-3 fatty acid. In their consumption, they convert into metabolites, that is the prostaglandins, through the aqueous outflow, the prostaglandins through the increased aqueous outflow facility, decrease IOP. Secondly, the DHA component of omega-3 fatty acid, they inhibit activation of NF, kappa, beta, and other inflammatory cytokines. Thus, the antioxidative properties provide protective effect. Number third, POAG patient and NTG patient, they have found to have increased local viscosity in the papillary-capillary network, decreased blood flow, so the omega-3 fatty acid, they enhance cell membrane fluidity and decrease platelet aggregation. Number four, systemic anti-inflammatory modulation of the omega-3 fatty acid also lead to the decreased IOP effect. The aim of my study was to study omega-3 fatty acid on IOP in normotensis as well as on POAG patients. Objective study, there were 4 objectives. I took the study, the effect of omega-3 fatty acid on the study of the effect in POAG patient. Third, compare the change in IOP normotensive on omega-3 in normotensive patient and not on omega-3. And fourth, the compare the change in IOP in POAG patient on single topical anti-glaucoma plus omega-3 after 3 months of supplementation. This was a prospective interventional randomized control study. There were 4 groups. First group was a normotensive group. Second group, normotensive group receiving omega-3 fatty acid. Third group, POAG patient on 1 drug therapy. Fourth group, POAG patient on 1 drug therapy plus omega-3 fatty acid. It was a 3-month follow-up study. IOP was measured by applanation tonometry at baseline, 1 month and 3-month follow-up period. Inclusion criteria consists of POAG patient of 40 to 60 age group and exclusion other forms of glaucoma like PSEG, NTG, secondary glaucoma, general health conditions and other conditions in which the patient is allergic to omega-3 fatty acid. The participants in the group 2 and group 4 were randomized to receive omega-3 supplement capsule soft eye plus TDS for 3 months. Soft eye consists of 300 mg EPA and 200 mg DHA. So the total dosing was 900 mg per day EPA and 600 mg per day DHA. There were many studies like Laura, Elizabeth Downey et al. For 3-month study. They found a reduction in IOP in normotensive patient when they took 72 patients and gave omega-3 fatty acid for 3 months. They found an 8% reduction. Jesus Teles Vasquez, he also found a decrease in IOP in normotensive patient. In our study also, we found a decrease in IOP in normotensive patient, that is a group 2, from 16.02 to 14.64 mmHg. Stephanie Romeo Villard Onega et al. He did study on a glaucoma patients of Frax glaucoma. They also found a decrease in IOP that was statistically significant of 0.072 after 3 months of supplementation. In our study also in glaucoma patients like the group 3 and group 4 patients, we found a decrease in IOP from 19.2 to 17.42 mmHg after 3 months of supplementation. So we found that in group 4, we also found in group 4 a more IOP lowering effect was observed as compared to group 2. That is, the patients of POAG found a more decrease in IOP as compared to non-potensive. Conclusion, so we study demonstrated decrease in IOP on omega-3 fatty acid. So we recommend use of omega-3 fatty acid as a supplement drug therapy in all cases of POAG. And we also found a decrease in normotensive. So the patients who have suspect of POAG and a high risk of POAG could be given omega-3 fatty acid. Thank you, sir.
Total, how many number of patients were included? 30.
Yes, ma'am. I took about 4 groups, and in each group, 45 patients were taken, and rounded of 45, 32 eyes was given according to it. That was significant. After 20% dropout were taken out.
So, Dr. Sharma, the main outcome from your study that is coming is normal tension glaucoma patients should be on lifetime therapy of these medicines, supplements, omega-3 supplement to keep pressure under control, or like
Sir, I recommend a supplement therapy of to primary open-angle glaucoma patients to any other drug therapy. So through different mechanisms, IOP also decrease, and plus a protective effect through the antioxidative mechanism is also there on the neuropathies also.
Okay.
How long the patient should continue?
Sir, I had given for 3 months. So according to studies, it could be given up to 6 months without any, up to a long time also without any much serious side effects also.
Were there any side effects in any of the patients?
Sir, mainly the side effect they occurred by due to the gastric problems like heartburn and etc. So if there was any problem, I prescribe PPI to those patients.
Okay.
But you didn't do any visual field to see whether the fields were stable over this period of time.
So I did the effect. I did study only on IOP. Only for optic neuropathy, there are many studies that have also studied the effect on visual field and Kupnik's ratio. But I have taken only on IOP.
What I suggest, include large cohort when you have come out with such finding, and include the visual fields that will also supplement your results that it is advantageous. That is improvement.
Specifically in open angle glaucoma or normal tension glaucoma. Exactly.
Pardon, ma'am?
Depends. I'll continue.
Yeah, I think we can go ahead with the last presentation. Thank you, Dr. Nivedita, for your nice presentation. It is key for glaucoma compliance awareness. Chief presenter is Dr. Anupriya Chobe. Is she there?
Yes, she is there in the meeting.
Where is Dr. Anupriya? Dr. Anupriya, are you there?
Dr. Anupriya, if you can unmute yourself.
Yes, yes, I'm there. I'm just joining, just sharing my screen.
Please share.
Just to guide you, ma'am, you need to open the PPT first on your laptop and then hit share screen where you will be able to see the PPT. The PPT is visible, ma'am. Dr. Anupriya, let me know if you're facing any issues.
I'm logging it with my tablet, so I'm not able to see my PPT. It is open.
Is it
open in the back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now okay. Now just click on share screen. It was visible sometime before. Just
it was just visible. Don't panic. Don't panic. We will not cut your marks because of all these things.
I'll just guide you through, ma'am. If the PPT is open, just click on share screen and tell me what you can see there.
It's asking that from where I want to load it.
Correct. So you have to be on basic, which is there on the topmost column, and there you would be able to see your PPT. Is it visible?
The option are the OneDrive and Google Drive, Box, Photo. There is nothing like basic.
Okay, so ma'am, just files. After the file, there is advanced, and after advanced, on the top level, ma'am, on the top level.
I'm just give me a second. I'm just trying.
I'm just calling you, ma'am. Just give me some time.
Anupriya, can you see the share screen icon? Just click on the green icon. Click on that. That will show you your screen. From that, click on your presentation. Support system, please help her.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm on the call with her. Yes, ma'am.
Anupriya, where is the problem? Unmute yourself. Tell her.
I think they are over phone call, madam. They are connected over phone call and trying to connect. Let us give them some time to connect.
Yeah, we have time because I think student presence.
Presenters are absent. No?
Yes, Dr. Madhavendra Singh and
Sanchita Agarwal.
Dr. Sanchita Agarwal.
Today.
Dr. Anupriya, the call got disconnected. I'm unable to contact you again. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes. I'm just trying to upload it, but not able to find the document.
If you tell me options, ma'am, what you can see when you hit share screen.
It's asking me to upload from various options like Microsoft OneDrive, Google Drive, Box, Photo, Documents, and I'm just searching on the document. The PDF, the PPT is in on my background.
Okay, so ma'am, what I understand here is you are on the files section. You are on the files section of share screen. You have to go to basic, where you will see the PPT. It is at the top level in the center itself.
Okay.
Or the next easy thing you can do is, ma'am, you can put it in your drive. From there.
मेरे को नहीं तो मेल कर दीजिए, मैं यहाँ से प्ले कर दूंगा.
Sure, that will also do. Sir, आप मेल आईडी दे देंगे आपका, मतलब मैम
मैं चैट में लिख देता हूँ.
Yes. So the easiest way is, Dr. Anupriya, you can send it to our AV person. He will help us out with that.
Yes, ma'am. I'll just mail it.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Apnila, I will give only 1 minute now. We just cannot go on like this.
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
We have other attachments and other work also to be done.
Sure, ma'am.
And it's more than 5 minutes is more than enough. My suggestion to all the coordinators and hall coordinators, please ask them to check, give them a dry run at least 10 minutes before they join for this.
Sir, ma'am, it is there already because we log in 1 hour before. So the forum is on for the doctors to join in and check their audios and even check their screen sharing.
Yeah. Forum was on from I think 7:45.
Correct.
Like I saw it from 7:45. It was on.
They were there and people should have done that beforehand.
Exactly. You should practice it once.
Using laptop is always a good idea while presenting rather than a tablet or mobile.
What is she using? Laptop?
Tablet.
Okay.
Tablet is very difficult. Anytime it can go.
Dr. Anupriya, if you can confirm if you have sent the PPT.
I've not got the mail. Acha, this is okay. I'm just sending it.
Anupriya is testing patience of judges. My God, madam.
I'm so sorry, sir. I'm really sorry. Actually, I was not aware. I've done presentations, but this is happening for the first time.
You have an interesting topic, Anupriya.
Yeah, we are looking forward to it.
Just read it out.
The uncertainty.
I've sent the mail. I have sent the mail.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, can you check if you have received it and start the screen sharing?
अभी मेल नहीं आया मैम.
Dr. Anupriya, can you check if it is being sent correctly on the correct ID?
Yes,
Hello, everyone. Ready? Please smile.
What's that?
Thank you, judges, for your patience. We still have to wait for some time.
Have you received the mail?
The mail is not received as yet. Our AV person is checking that out.
Can you please check again?
You try, Anupriya, from your own tab. Relog.
Sir, can you check
नहीं
again?
मैम अभी नहीं आया. हाँ आ गया.
Okay. Thank you for the patience, guys. I think, doctors, we have got the PPT now. We can start with the screen sharing.
Do that.
Thank you, sir, for helping us out with that.
मैम पीपीटी नहीं आया ये.
Is it a Word document?
Word document है.
PNG फाइल है मैम.
Okay, so I understand, Dr. Anupriya, that was not a PPT and PNG file which was making a issue while sharing it. सर आप वो शेयर कर सकेंगे PNG फाइल?
नहीं, ये ओपन ही नहीं हो रहा है.
Okay, so I think that was the format that was creating an issue.
Okay.
ठीक है, कोई नहीं.
I'll try once again. Just I had already submitted the PPT long back because it was asked to upload it beforehand.
Okay, so we can see here that it's creating some issue because of the format. So, ma'am, sometime before, in one go, we got to see the screen once. So, try searching for the files.
नहीं मैम.
On behalf of all others, I am taking liberty to now stop this. We can't just go on like this. So we conclude this session.
Paul Patterson.
Are you okay with this, Ravi?
Yeah, please, madam, please.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay.
Go ahead, madam.
Panjab, we can't give somebody more than 10 minutes for upload. Dr. Vikas,
yes.
Being a chairman, please give your opinion on this.
Yes, madam. Totally agree with you.
Because it's
I'm
not
so sorry, ma'am. I'm just trying. I'm not able to do it.
but we simply cannot just go on like this if it is not possible. Otherwise,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
would love to listen to your talk.
Yes, ma'am. I really apologize for all this.
It's okay. Next time, maybe.
It's okay, doctor. It's a learning lesson for all of us also. We need to be careful sometimes. So it's okay. Don't worry. On some other platform, surely we'll listen to you and your talk.
So with due respect and with due respect to the time, we conclude the first session here. Thanks a lot, the judges and the chairpersons for patiently having us with you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.